Simplify your life. Make sure that you are you have the financial capability to live a lifestyle that's not demanding on your corporate W-2. Once you can get to that situation, you can do whatever you want, right? The problem is with most corporate folks or most people in general, and especially when we're down this lifestyle creep, everything goes up and up and up. The more you make, the more you spend. And that keeps happening. You have no financial freedom.
Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here, and I have my man Mitchell Morris in the house. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. I tell you what, people don't realize this, but I might have had a Twitter account for whatever you want to call it. I might have had it for 12 years, but I only used it literally in the last year, and it's been amazing. It feels like I found my people. Right. But I read your resume and I'm like, man, this is a corporate suit. This guy's boring. But I'm the anti-corporate, but no, I love it, man. I'm just giving you a hard time, but why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. It's a complicated story, actually. Grew up poor as heck. Parents basically said, hey, you have to go to college. So first gen out of family since we immigrated to the United States 1800s. Had no idea what I was getting into going to college. But here's the problem is I've always been an entrepreneur. So ever since a very young age, mowing grass, washing cars, selling, buying candy, in the elementary school, selling it for a 3X markup. First job at 16. First thing I did with my paycheck was I hired a gardener to do the parents' lawn because it was my responsibility. So at 16, I was hired gardeners. I was outsourcing labor, all sorts of fun things. And then went to school. Kind of, what am I supposed to do in college? What do we do here? So I partied a lot, had a good time, joined a fraternity, did all the stuff you're supposed to do. Came to graduation day, had no idea how to find work. Went to the recruiter at school. Hey, I need a job. I got a degree. What do I do? And they gave me a listing for UPS to go move boxes over at UPS. Right. So I was totally pissed. Like, what the fuck moment in my life? Because I literally had nobody telling me how any of this stuff worked. Mm-hmm. But kind of being the blue collar roots guy I've always been, I just went out and started hustling, looking for work. And one of my friends called me up and said, hey, I'm not taking a job. I'm going up to Alaska for the summer and they need somebody. Are you interested? So I went and I was a field biologist for 6 months. Again, didn't know what to do. Thankfully, when I was going to college, I learned computers. So they had a kind of internship program. They brought me in, showed me how to kind of repair computers. And actually, by the time I left school, I had run fiber optic lines, built networks, servers, and all sorts of crazy infrastructure stuff that I had no real idea of the value to that until I went and looked for my first job for myself. And I saw there was a computer repair technician job available. So I applied for it, started working for this guy doing computer work at minimum wage type of rates. But dude was paying me commission. So I started working really hard. Commission checks started getting real big, so big that the owner of the company would throw them at me, pissed off that he had to pay me so much because I just worked my ass off. So that's kind of me, in a micro kind of cosm. I'm a hard worker, roll up your sleeves kind of corporate guy. But I've been in and out. So since that time, right after I left working for that guy, I started my own IT company. Ran it for a while. One of my clients wanted to hire me, went to work for them full time. And I've kind of done this transition in and out of the corporate world for 20 years. So as a W-2 employee, I think I've had 11 jobs from PC technician to chief information officer. So I climbed that corporate ladder. In between, get fed up, stop, start my own companies. So I've started eight companies, four of them in the consulting world, and sold one of them in 2007. It was a MSP, a managed service provider, an IT company. And then I'm invested in probably about 20, 24 others. A few of those I help operate as well, but more of kind of an advisory role. Retired when I was 44, took my last corporate job and said I wasn't going to do this anymore. Wife and I started a small local retail shop. Never done anything like that. My wife wanted to do something that was not growth and scale oriented. We wanted to do something that was community focused. So we started a little thrift store here in Chino, California. It's gone from zero, and I think this year to do about 300K in business. So it's a small shop. We pay above average salaries to our part-time employees. There's 6 of them, and put a lot of money and time and effort back into our local community. About 6 months ago, decided I was going to start doing advisory work again because I keep getting called back in from past, business associates that want me to do work for them. So I said, hey, what can I do till I'm a very old man? Mm-hmm. I can do advisory work, right? I can consult. I love businesses. I love growing things. I love scale. And the weird thing is when I look back on my career, almost every job I've owned has been on in a company that was reorganizing for growth or that was growth oriented. So kind of my whole life has just been, chasing growth and scale. So I hope that's a good summary.
No, it's great. And I think one of the things that I get, and I'll be the first one to tell you because I'm one of them that have changed recently. When I was fed up with my job, when I worked for a big conglomerate and I was ready to be done with the career that I was doing, I wanted everything to do my own company, do my own thing, not have anybody to talk to me. But I have since switched and said like, hey, let's slow down. The W-2 maybe is not as bad, especially because we live in a world now where technology that you can build at night or you can build on the weekends. That anxiety of just leaving your job completely and not having money saved up is something that I don't think a lot of people understand. Kind of, you spend a lot of time in corporate. Now you have your own companies. Like, where do you land on this argument? Like, oh, just screw the W-2. It's useless. Like, start your own company. Like, where do you land on that argument?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really depends on your personality. I mean, I have a personality from the time I was 10. If I needed something, I'd go get it. Mm-hmm. So I still have that that this thought in my mind that if the world went to shit and I lost everything, I'd go pick up a shovel and find a guy that'd pay me, cash, and I'd dig ditches because cash would be the best way to start again instead of paying taxes on that stuff, right? Mm-hmm, so I'm the kind of guy that's what I'll do. I will pick up the shovel and my whole corporate life has really been roll up your sleeves, get to work. It's the same thing as entrepreneurship, right? It's how do you get to the doing part? And that's my biggest frustration with the corporate world was that it was just too slow. I would come in, I'd optimize my last CIO role. Within 6 months, I had restructured the organization and completed I think it was 11 years worth of backlog that they had literally in 6 months. So that's just the difference between, being an entrepreneur and having to do and earn compared to kind of sitting in the corporate world. So if you're not willing to get to the doing part, you're way better suited for kind of a corporate gig where you just have time and availability and people kind of telling you what to do and you just kind of check the boxes and make sure people are happy with you. It's different. So.
And for anybody that's listening out there, because I know I have a couple clients that I coach and just in general, they're in a corporate job. Their dream is to be out. They feel stuck. They feel like they can't see the end. What's your advice to them? Like as you sit today,
simplify your life. Make sure that you are you have the financial capability to live a lifestyle that's not demanding on your corporate W-2. Once you can get to that situation, you can do whatever you want, right? The problem is with most corporate folks or most people in general, and especially when we're young, it's lifestyle creep. Everything goes up and up and up. The more you make, the more you spend. And if that keeps happening, you have no financial freedom. So the minute you can, and I learned this lesson really young. And basically, when I was fired from a job one time, when I was supposed to come in, promise the world, the person I was working for didn't do what they were supposed to do. They were going to get ousted, but instead decided to axe me instead of giving me what I was entitled to. I learned at that point in my life, and I think I was maybe 28, that financial freedom is up to me. So my lifestyle, what I earn, will dictate what I can do. And ever since that day, about 3 years later, I had set up my lifestyle in a way that any job I ever took, I didn't need to be there. I wanted to be there. And that's a difference maker.
Guys, let me take a minute to tell you about my buddies over at Lead Hub, Ben and Aaron, the best humans I know. Not only are they amazing at marketing for trade companies, but Ben started his HVAC company in his garage, sold it for multi-million dollars. So when this guy talks, I listen. When we took over Dietz Mechanical, we had 22 reviews in 22 years. In 7 short months, we went from 22 reviews to 107. We went from a 4.2 to a 4.7. We tripled our Facebook presence and we tripled our calls. If you're an HVAC, plumbing, electric, landscaping company, and you're looking for a no BS approach to marketing, you're looking for people who have done it before, you got to go to leadhub.net. Mm-hmm. So you're advising all these companies. You've been a part of a bunch of different companies. You've seen all the companies. I wish grown-ups, and I'm using that word on purpose because I coach a lot of, I either coach 20-year-olds who want to run through a wall, or I coach 45 and above trying to change their life. There's no in between. And especially grown men think they don't have patterns, which they are the most pattern-oriented people ever. So you advise all these different companies, all these different clients, and somehow all the problems seem to fall in the same kind of buckets all the time, right? Like no matter 100%. If they're selling widgets or they're over here doing landscaping, it's all really the same. And I wish people understood how the same it is. When you're looking at them and you have so much experience, like what are the general, 1 to 3 to 2 problems that you see in a typical business, either when they're scaling or when they're just stuck in neutral?
Well, when you're scaling, I mean, if you don't have kind of your infrastructure set, the right people, the right processes, some sort of plan, and everybody on board, right? Infrastructure and the resources. Scaling is just problematic, right? It's just kind of this wave of up and downs, and you hit spurts and then you stall out. So kind of fixing the business fundamentals, what I like to call foundational. So I have this concept I call foundational thinking. And it's this idea that as strategic planning, what we're really doing is we're constantly resetting the foundation of our business to support where we want to go. And so that's kind of on the scale side. On the stall out side, it's usually reorganization. It's usually, do you have the right people? Is your thought process right? Maybe your products are good, but you just disconnected from the market. And that's usually because somebody got lazy, right? Usually the owner is the one that's kind of like, they let off the gas, money's coming in, everything's good. Then all of a sudden money stops coming in and now they want to change it. Now it's like a 2-year rebuild cycle, right? Hitting the ceiling. Everybody's looking for EOS or some savior that can pull off the shelf and help them out. And it's really, it's 100% owner based. It's your mentality. Have you learned? Have you grown? Do you continuously improve? And if you have those kind of ingrained features or you learn them, sky's the limit because you're always going to improve as you go. If you don't, then you literally have to say, okay, am I the right person? If I'm not the right person, then hire the right person. Step out, do the part that you like, but you're not the right person. And that's a hard conversation, and usually one that I'm having all the time, whether or not it's executives that are getting stuck or owners that are stuck. It's always like, are you the right person? Do you want to do this work? Obviously, you've been doing it for however many years, right? Are you burned out? Is it time to sell?
There's a book I read, a big business broker was talking about. He said one of the number one reasons that a business doesn't sell for what it should is that the owners hold on longer than their passion cycle will allow them to stay engaged.
Sure.
And for me, like I am the light a fire under your ass, change everything, move to Europe, switch your whole life around, chaotic energy, push. But if you want
That's
me
what
to
I
go
follow.
from, if you want me to go from 5 million to 10 million to 10 million to 20, snooze, I'm out. But if you want me to go find 6 more businesses to buy, I got you. And for me, it's a real ego check, because I wouldn't be lying if I said I don't love being the driver. I don't dislike being the one that everybody looks to, but having that real conversation with yourself and saying, maybe I'm not the guy, maybe it doesn't need my energy right now. It just happened to me Friday and we made the switch. And I'll be frank, like, it's going to take me a couple weeks to, kind of move from it. But I know it's the right decision, but that doesn't mean it was easy. And it happened quicker than I thought, because I think that we had so much change in the first 12 months that it needs more of a stable mindset for the next 2 years while we build this unpenetrable foundation.
So smart. I mean, it's so smart. I mean, why are you there? Right? Is it for the cash flow or is it for the
No.
ego? Right?
No.
Right?
Yeah, no, it's not for,
Right?
it's not for the
So,
cash flow. Yeah. I'm the
so
last
I
one
mean,
to get paid. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But why are you there? Right? I mean, is it
To
because you love
create
to build
jobs,
right?
build something where long-term cash flow is constant.
And I'm a huge fan of this idea of sustainable profit. Right? How do we do this in a sustainable fashion where everybody's taken care of, where we're covering our basics, where my needs as the owner are taken care of? Because no matter how hard you want to try to separate yourself from being, from the owner's impact in the business, it is you're kind of the same entity, right? Your thoughts and beliefs are just spread throughout the organization, and to be able to take that to like a chairman, right, kind of role, or an
Yeah.
advisory role, and let a different CEO take over, it's kind of a win-win, because you've gotten to the point where you can afford it, right? And now you're actually back doing what the part that you love to do, which is, if it's growing and going finding more companies, you're out there nailing that.
Yeah.
If it's rolling up your sleeves and doing the recruiting, go find that part that you love and do it. Right? I get kind of driven crazy by the folks that are always like, oh, I just want to work on the business and not in it. It's like, well, it's impossible, right? Because if you're working on the business and not in it, you're a board member. And if you're a board member, somebody else is got to do it, right? Because you're not in it. So it's this weird concept and ideal that I think a lot of business owners have that run things weird.
The book that changed my life, I mean, there are many books that changed my life among getting sober and all this stuff, but the book that changed my life, which typically would be a book that I would snooze on, but it was so well put together that I enjoyed it, was Good to Great by Jim Collins. And it was one chapter that really did it for me. And he said the number one issue in business is that nobody will look at facts and be brutally honest about those facts. Right? When we took over the company, there was a real need for construction in our area that was not being filled. We're already doing plumbing, we're already doing HVAC, it's easy, but we can't beat the Amish in pricing. And a construction client is harder to deal with than an HVAC client because they're picky, you're picking out stuff. And we started losing money, and I realized just because it was what the market needed didn't mean that it made sense financially. And to shut that down and just was like I had to like raise the white flag. And that was like, okay, that was for me. I saw a need. I thought we could fill any need. Let's talk about, because my issue is, and you see way more business than I have. I believe that there's a ton of businesses out there that might be revenue positive, but they're not making money.
It's a great statement, because there's so many companies that are just like 2 months of cash flow away from being gone and insolvent, and some of them are $100 million companies. This idea of sustainability is just gone. Everybody, and I don't know why it's such short-term thinking nowadays. I mean, these cycles are so short. If you can just let yourself, actually have a vision and say, where do I want to be and what's going to happen in 5 years, and let me kind of process that and let it happen. It's amazing what happens. Right. But so many people are just caught in the day to day, like, what's our sales forecast? What are we doing this month? And how does it look? Do I have the line of credit to make payroll? Because when you're starting and growing, it's obviously, if you're growth oriented, payroll and these things are always an issue because you're constantly reinvesting. But if you're running a sustainable company, there should be a part where that line of credit is just there and not touched, right? That the business is operating and funding itself, and that the growth efforts are incremental. There's still growth efforts, but they're not, let's just go all in again. Let's go all in again. Let's go all in again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a cycle that I've been trapped in it for
Sure.
almost 15 years, was this all in over and over and over and over. And it's kind of fun to have a small business where the only real focus is, good jobs and taking and making enough cash that we can put back into the community. Like, it's not coming in my pocket, and it's so weird, and it's liberating. It's very, very different. I've never done anything like it in my life. It's very interesting.
It's the best, man. It's the best. Those 6 people that work for you, no matter when they do, because I'm not saying that it's not stressful, okay, but it's something like, perfect example. There's a coffee shop in our little small town. The coffee shop is the hub of commerce for this little town. Like, I don't know how much they make, but that's the heartbeat of the community.
Right.
Like, to do that, to give something to the community, nothing better.
And I can agree with you, because first time in my life, I'm going to be 50, right? I've been able to actually do this concept, right? And then say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to build something. And it went $280,000 or $185,000 out of pocket to build this business, right? I mean, that was my out-of-pocket expense. I had to put about 18 months into actively managing it. And now we kind of have this group of people that I just pop in and out. And sometimes we'll go in there. My wife and I volunteer a ton of time, and we work with people. And we've got to know the local mayors. We've got to know city council people. We've got to know shop owners and everybody on first name basis, which is kind of odd for LA area. Usually people aren't even talking to each other in SoCal. So it's pretty cool to have this kind of neighborhood vibe now, and
yeah,
and it is a junk business. It's not sexy at all, but the impact is amazing, So it's fun, and it shows you the beautiful idea of what business can be and kind of what the heart of small business is. We're always getting caught up in growth and scale, and that just changes that dynamic. But you can run, a very profitable small company. I mean, if my wife and I just said, hey, this is all we were going to do, just her and I, we could really run it at like 40% net, right?
Yeah.
And so that means I could put $140,000 a year into my own bank account, work 5 days a week, and just kind of relax. And that's an interesting idea. I mean, I think a lot of people never look at this, or most people in an entrepreneurial mindset nowadays don't look at business from that aspect. They look at it from I gotta grow.
Sure.
And and understanding everybody wants something, everybody needs something more, but this idea that small business can actually be very lucrative and rewarding, I think needs to be talked about a little more. Unlike a corporate job, I don't think I think at the top it's lonely, and it stops becoming rewarding. Right? When I was back when I was a PC engineer, or I ran my own project, I'd go out, build something, walk back, get a paycheck, look at it and say, oh, that's fantastic. It's built. It's amazing, right? And then that business is off and running with the infrastructure and everything provided. From a corporate perspective, the minute that's done, here's another one. Now you own this one. We need to hire some people to manage that. So pretty soon, it's just a cycle of bullshit, right? It's just over and over. Yeah. It's never ending. There's no thank yous. There's no gratitude. You have these wins, and then you just right back into the mix forever. So it's very different.
So I spent 20 years. I spent time in the music business, and I also spent time selling wine and in the hospitality business. And I have a quote. The better you get at cooking, the farther you get away from the kitchen.
Okay, yeah.
And it's basically, as a chef gets more famous, they don't cook anymore. They're just, they're networking, right? Mm-hmm. And so I am obsessed with mowing the grass, and that'll never go away from me, right? Because it's something that I can do. Here's the grass is tall. Here's the grass cut. Great. Look back, boom. When you scale a business, you might not see the end result. Some of the projects that we do are 15 months.
Right.
Some of the stuff that you don't see it for 2 years. So you have to be careful as an entrepreneur or a business owner or somebody even in corporate world that what you're actually seeking is completion feeling of something in your life. And so maybe that's a hobby. Maybe that's, riding your bike. A lot of entrepreneurs cycle, stuff like that. I think that's what we're missing a lot of is we never actually see the end of something.
100%. And the end game is a paycheck, right? It's just like more money, right? What do you do with more money? You spend it on something else, you buy something else, right? Or you save it. But you're right. There's no completion. It's a little bit of excitement. Cool. Here's a check. I got this money. Awesome. But it's just the next problem, right? The next day. So myself, I work on old trucks and old motorcycles. I love using my hands. Like I'll even, when it comes time to paint my house, I'll probably do it myself because I have time and because I like to be involved in that manual component. Right? And even our little thrift store, when I go help, it's always moving heavy things or going to somebody's house and picking up some furniture from an older couple or something that wants to donate it to us. Little things like that I love to just get out and do physically because I spent 20 years behind a desk, So it's just, it's different. And I'm sure in the HVAC plumbing world, when you're putting stuff in the truck and you're running out and you're helping and you're loading it, unloading it, you probably get the same kind of feel off of that.
Yeah. Dude, I ran down to Pittsburgh the other day in a snowstorm, picked up a unit, came up the hill and dropped it off for the boys, putting somebody's heat on. Like that was the highlight of my day. Because most of my stuff is I get to talk to lawyers and insurance people. It's very boring.
Yeah, doing those little things just it's so weird, right? And everybody like, oh, this is leadership, right? This is how you lead. And it's like, well, this is the doing part, right? This is the hands-on. This is working in the business that you have to have. It's that kind of completion part. And having worked for a lot of owners or executives that were kind of hands off, you can always tell the difference between a very functional, great running business when the CEO comes down and he's sitting on your desk, he's walking around or she's walking around, they know everybody and they have that give a shit attitude compared to the one at top that's just delegating. And I don't care how big you are. Like you read the Jack Welch stories and all these, old, they were all hands-on people, right? And the success, I mean, even Musk, you look at Musk, he's hands-on, sleeping in, getting in, doing the work on the line. That's it, man. That's kind of this, people talk about work-life balance. And once work and life kind of combined, I think you're in a magic spot where it just is what it is. And you're happy with the state of things.
I tell people all the time, I told my team too, when we took over, like, just because the CEO or the owner's in the office doesn't mean he's in the office. Doesn't mean he's engaged in what's going on. So the number one thing I'm trying to teach them is just because I'm not there doesn't mean I'm not there. Like, doesn't mean that I don't know that everything that's going on. I could be in Thailand. It don't matter to me. I'm going to find out what's going on. That's just me, right? But what I like to do from time to time to get them all riled up, and last year it was like 20 degrees and we had to run electric wiring in an attic in a snowstorm. And I put on some overalls and jumped under there. And my 70-year-old tech goes, "Oh, I didn't think you were actually going to do it." I said, "Get out of my way, old man. I'm doing this shit." I love it. And they just thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
I got similar stories. So like the last big corp job I had, we were doing a major change out of this dining function. So there was 5 restaurants on site, and we were firing the old company that had been there 20 years for catering and bringing in a new one. And at that time, I oversaw the IT department plus the security department. So there was like 120 security guards in this firm. So I had to arrange everything because this transition was happening at midnight, make sure nothing gets stolen and all this kind of crap. And 11:50 rolls up, and here I am to see how it goes, right? So I'm there with the crew, watching everything, working with the security guards, working with the techs, working with all the vendors till like 3 a.m. And then I get back and go to my next corporate meetings, which are on Tuesday. And people give it a report, and I tell everybody how I showed up and did this stuff, and they would just look at me like, "What the fuck? Like, who does that, right? Like, why would you do that?" And the whole idea was because I give a shit. I wanted it needed to go right. I wanted to be there. Everybody was inconvenienced, and I wanted to be part of it. And but so many people want to get away from that level of responsibility. It's interesting.
The thing I'm obsessing with my clients and my business right now is I think we've become a society of taking it 85, 90%. And what they don't realize is that magic is in that 105%. That little
Sure.
extra you do, that completing it and maybe doing a little more than you wanted, or just seeing it through, like that right there is the difference between surviving for a long period of time. Because that's your branding. That's your branding. We are a group. We are people that go above and beyond and fix that for you. Boom. Like, and just in your personal life, right? That's so important.
So to kind of go to that point, so if we're starting a business, you have to give 100. You have no choice. If you want to be successful, you have to get in. You have to do the 100%. You have to figure out how to get that 5% that you can't even get from somebody else. You've got to figure it out. In the corporate world, as you get bigger, that kind of dissolves and goes away. But, I'm a big believer in the concept, right, of entrepreneurship, right? The same thought process as entrepreneurship in the corporate world or in your growth or in your scale-oriented business. If you can teach everybody this idea of improving, doing what's necessary, sharing in the rewards, no matter how big you get or how much you scale, you're going to have a very dynamic company. But there always comes a time where, things don't go that way. Or can you run, how long can you actually perpetuate that environment?
Totally.
But that concept is, I think it's missing with a lot of businesses when they start getting bigger. And I think a lot of it starts with just the owner's attitude, like, oh, I used to do all that and now I don't want to do it. I'm now this. So once you're that, everybody else wants to be not that too, right? So everybody aspires to be where you're at. So if you're behaving in this manner, then, when you're $100 million firm, it's full of overhead and you're wondering why. It's everybody's followed you up. And then that's kind of what you build.
I love it. If people want to find out, they want to follow you, they want to find out more about you, how would they do that?
You can go to my business, my advisory site, conradalloys.com. It's an easier way to get a hold of me. I think phone number, email there. Also, Twitter, I'm under Mitchell C. Morris.
I love it. Guys, share this episode with a friend, rate us and review us, and we'll see you.